Parshat Tzav, and in this week's Parsha, we find something extremely unique, something that only appears 3 other times in the Torah, which is the tam, the trop, the te'amim, the ta'amei mikra of Shalshelet, the one that goes up and down and up and down and up and down. And what we try to understand, why does it even appear in this week's Parasha?
And as we saw in all the other places, it seemed to be something really dramatic, some major choice that someone was making, something dramatic happening. And here, it was just one of the korbanot that Moshe was shechting, and suddenly it gets the same power, the same importance of the others. Obviously, there's something much more that's hiding in this pasuk.
Exactly. We saw how deep this situation and dramatic this situation in our Parsha is, just because that tam, and not only does it show us how dramatic it is, but it also actually connects to all the other 3 times that they appear back in Sefer Bereshit. An extremely deep concept in this week's video. Make sure you take a look. Hope you enjoy it. It's Parshat Tzav, Shabbat HaGadol, the week before Pesach, and this week I want to talk about something very unique, something very different than what we usually talk about, because in this week's Parasha we find a tam from Ta'amei Mikra, one of the Ta'amim, one of the Torah Trops that we find is a very unique one. We only find it 4 times in the entire Torah, which is the Shalshelet, the Trop, the tam that goes up and down and up and down and up and down, and we know it from Sefer Bereshit because there we find it 3 times in 3 different interesting situations. However, we find it also this week in a very seemingly random place in the middle of the parasha, where Moshe Rabbeinu is preparing Aharon and his sons to take over the work in the Mishkan, what we call Shivat Yemei HaMiluim, the 7 days before the inauguration of the Mishkan, before the official opening of the Mishkan. Moshe Rabbeinu every single day was preparing Aharon and his sons again and again. And over there we find Moshe showing them how to slaughter, how to shech 3 different korbanot. And then in the 3rd korban, just as Moshe Vayishcha, just as Moshe does the shchita to that 3rd korban, we find this trop, we find this tam, the shalshelet on top of the vayishchat. And obviously the tamim, the tune that the Torah has a lot of meaning behind it. And we really have to ask, why is this tam here? Why do we use that specific, unique, special tune for that vayishchat of Moshe? What is going on in the story? Why is this tam here?
Yeah, that's very interesting, because as you said, when we look at the previous cases, they all seem really dramatic. We look at all 3. The first one we have is at the moment when Lot is being taken out of Sodom, and the Malachim are telling him, come on, let's go. And the pasuk says, Vayitmahameh. He stalls, he waits, he's not sure, and you can feel it in the tune, Vayitmahameh, and it just keeps going and going and going, this back and forth, and you can feel Lot sort of torn, leaving his home, leaving the home that he chose. When Avram said, where do you want to go? He chose to go to this place, and deciding to leave it all behind and go with the Malachim. And as we know, Sodom is about to be destroyed, and it's waiting for him to get out of there, and he's sort of stalling. This is this dramatic moment of Lot deciding where he belongs to. Is he part of Sodom? Is he part of Avram's family? Is he going to follow the Malachim through? And similarly, we see in the case of Eliezer, Eved Avraham, we see Eved Avraham, but Chazal tell us it's Eliezer who goes to choose a wife for Yitzchak. And as Chazal develop this, where we also see in the Psukim where Avram says, before he has kids, he says, all I have is Damasek Eliezer. He's my home. He's my continuation. Think of that. Eliezer could be the continuation of Avram. And as Chazal developed, he prefers that his daughter would marry Yitzchak. And when he goes and chooses a wife and really fulfills this mission, he's actually choosing to do what he understands is right, to do his shlichut, the mission that he was sent on, and not choose what he would prefer over that mission and what he knows is right. And that decision, that moment where he decides to daven to Hashem to succeed, where he really wants to succeed, that's the moment where we see that. And then again, in another dramatic moment with Yosef, with Eshet Potiphar, with the wife of Potiphar, where we know Yosef, had all the excuses in the world. He had power, he had control, he finally had something. His family threw him away. He didn't have to feel any obligation towards his past life, which totally threw him out of there. But he makes this decision, and as the pasuk describes, Vayema'en, and as Chazal developed, it wasn't an easy decision. He was torn, but he decides to escape and find himself in jail at the end and not continue with her. And this moment was a dramatic moment for Yosef. It was Yosef's decision of who he is. Is he an Ivri? Is he a Mitzri? All of these are big moments. What's going on here? Vayishchat, he slaughters the korban, just one of 3 other korbanot, meaning what is going on? What's so dramatic? But obviously something dramatic is happening here. And if we take a step back, go to the end of Sefer Shmot and Vayikra, we'll realize something something fascinating happened here. Moshe builds the Mishkan. When he builds the Mishkan, and we've spoken about this in the past, the first thing that happens when the Mishkan is built, he couldn't enter. You know, he was the one at the front, suddenly he can't. He himself can't even enter this holy place. But what happens in Vayikra? He's called over. He's brought back in. Now he's inside. Now he can step inside. What's about to happen? Think about this. If Aaron needed to be the Kohen, why is Moshe doing the Korbanot? Why doesn't Moshe just teach Aaron how to do the Korbanot? Meaning, what's wrong with that? That's not what's happening here. Moshe got from HaKadosh Baruch Hu the power to be the Kohen, to be the one who goes lifnai v'lifnim into the Kodesh Kodashim, into the Kodesh, into the Mikdash, the one who does the Korbanot. And he's about to pass this over to Aaron. And from the moment he passes this over to Aaron, on Yom Kippur, if Moshe goes into Kodesh Kodashim, he'll die. He's not allowed to go there. It's only Aaron. Suddenly, from Moshe being the one passing over this connection with God, there's going to be someone who will have that deepest connection, the connection of Yom Kippur, of Kodesh HaKodashim, and it's not going to be going through him. And it's in his hands now. It's still in his hands. It's not just something that he was told to tell Aaron to do. It's much more than that. It was first given to him. He is the one who's doing the Korbanot now. And in this last Korban, which the next step is really giving it over to Aaron, is turning them into Kohanim, he's actually at this moment where he's giving up his personal connection, his personal high level of connection with HaKadosh Baruch Hu at some level, and giving this over to Aaron, giving this responsibility over to Aaron. And the Torah is sort of hinting to us how dramatic this moment, which we could have just read through and stopped. The Torah says, stop. There's a dramatic moment. Moshe is deciding that from this point on, it's not going to go through him. It's going to go through Aaron. Maybe that's why this is specifically on the Korban Shlamim, which represents peace, which is the Korban where everyone gets a part of, right? Also the one bringing the Korban, also the Kohen, also HaKadosh Baruch Hu, also the Mizbeach, Kivachol, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. They all have a part in this. This is the moment where Moshe recognizes that although I'm not going to be able to reach the same places that I personally could reach before, but as a whole, as Am Yisrael, as my mission in this world, I'll be fulfilling it. And that is what's happened in every one of those stages, and that's what's happening here too.
Very good, very good. I agree exactly with what you're saying. This dramatic moment over here is probably this point that Moshe Rabbeinu has this unique key to this door towards HaKadosh Baruch Hu, this unique relationship of this level, on this certain level that Moshe Rabbeinu has, which he is now not only teaching the Kohanim, but he's giving it over to the Kohanim, and the Kohanim representing Am Yisrael. He's giving over this key from himself, being the direct link to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, giving it over to the Kohanim so that Am Yisrael themselves have this direct link to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Am Yisrael themselves can come to the Mishkan and execute on this relationship with HaKadosh Baruch Hu. You know, very interestingly, as we said, the Te'amim represent something extremely deep, and there's an extreme deep connection over here going on between all these situations, the three situations in Sefer Bereshit that you mentioned, and the situation by us that I think, if you look very deeply and carefully into the words, into what's going on, it could be representing those three different situations in Sefer Bereshit. Because in the pasuk over here, right after Moshe Rabbeinu shochet, slaughters the korban, he takes some blood and he puts it on the ear, on the finger, and on the toe of the Kohanim, of Aharon and his sons. And as we know very deeply that these three aspects represent the three different levels of acting in this world, the three different levels of living in this world. The ozen represents the hearing, the listening, the balancing of your life. Ozen, which is moznaim, as we've said many times in Hebrew, the ozen that has to hear in Har Sinai, like we talked about, Naseh v'nishma, to continue hearing all the time HaKadosh Baruch Hu's words throughout this world in order to balance yourself, like we've discussed in the past several times. And then the hand, which are the doing in this world, the asiyah in this world, the acting in this world, that represent the actual maaseh in this world, hayadayim, as we know also, again, we've discussed many times, from Yaakov Avinu taking it from Esav, and until Moshe Rabbeinu sitting there with his hands during the war of Am Yisrael and Amalek. This is what the hands represent, the acting in this world, which are acting, but with HaKadosh Baruch Hu on top of them, with HaKadosh Baruch Hu's name through them, and then walking, the legs that represent the human beings. As we know, human beings, as compared to malachim, human beings are mehalchim. Human beings are the ones that walk, because in this world, our job is to walk, to develop it. Le'ovda ve'leshomra, purvu milut haaretz. We have to continue building this world. This is what we are here for. These three aspects that are represented in different psukim of lishma b'kol Hashem, lalechet b'chol darchav, ve'la'asot, and to do the mitzvahs. This is our job in this world. This is what we have to do. We have to develop the world. We have to do in this world. We have to create in this world with Hashem's voice, with Hashem's name on top of it, through continuing to hear Hashem's words, as again we've said with the very famous Shema Yisrael, one of our most basic tefillas that we have. But it also actually continues even more, because you look at the different korbanot that are being offered over here, you also find 3 different korbanot: korban chatat, korban olah, korban shlamim. Chatat, again, that represents this balance, this hearing of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, the par that comes keneged chet ha'egel, the par that is brought against chet ha'egel, like Rashi says, chet ha'egel, where Am Yisrael did not listen to what they're supposed to do, did not do what was expected from them, and instead they went and did the egel. The par is here in order to atone for that part. The par chatat, that also part goes on the mizbeach and part is burnt outside the machaneh. These 2 extremes, the balance between them, this is the par chatat. And then after that, we find the korban olah. The korban olah that goes all the way up to Shemaim is totally burnt on the mizbeach. Olah kulo leHashem, which comes for what? Which comes for someone who did not do a mitzvah taseh. Someone who misses a mitzvah taseh that they're supposed to do has to bring a korban olah, because they did not act the way they're supposed to act. They did not do with their hands, the hands that resemble the asiyah, the acting in this world. They didn't do what they were expected to do. And then we have the korban shlamim, the shlamim that, like you said, is brought for this world down here to make shalom between human beings and Kadosh Baruch Hu, between human beings and themselves, to connect Am Yisrael together, to bring harmony into this world here below, where the raglaim are on earth, where we can walk together, where we're supposed to walk together. These are the 3 korbanot, and represents not only doing the mitzvot, but also walking in God's ways, because in this world, again, we live in this world, we walk in this world. So when we walk in this world, we have to, again, remember that we represent Hashem's name. These are the 3 korbanot, and taking it even deeper to the 3 other situations that we find in Sefer Bereshit, maybe those 3 situations represent exactly these 3 aspects. We see by Lot, like you said, he didn't hear, he wasn't listening to the malachim that said to him, come, let's get out of here, and he wasn't listening because he was torn between these 2 sides. That's the Vaitmama, that's what he's waiting for. He isn't listening, but he has to listen, he has to hear. His whole job over there was to be a shofet, to be the one that balances everybody, lehazen, the moznaim of the mishpat. He didn't do his job the way he was supposed to do it, so the malachim came and had to shake him up and get him out of there. And then after Lot, we find Eliezer, Eved Avraham, the Eved, which is a Yada Arichta, like we've discussed also in the past. The Eved that represents the owner, that is like the long hand of the owner to act on his behalf. That's what Eliezer is doing. He's acting on Avraham's behalf, and he's asking HaKadosh Baruch Hu, please let me act on his behalf. Like we discussed back then, Parshat Tzav, Eliezer asking HaKadosh Baruch Hu, please make sure that when I act, when I use my hands, I'm doing it the way my owner wants me to do. I'm really fulfilling my shlichut. I'm really fulfilling the message that I'm supposed to bring into this world. And then moving on to Yosef HaTzadik, Midat Yesod, the person who deals in deep in this world, deep in Mitzrayim, is deep over there in the most earthly situation, in the most physical, materialistic situation in Mitzrayim, in the most teva that we have over there. He remembers who his father is. He remembers who he is, what he is about. And every single day, Eshet Potiphar comes to him and tries to convince him, and he doesn't go her way. He doesn't go to where she wants him to end up, but he takes his legs and he runs out of there. He runs out of that deep situation, and from there, that's where we get our power to deal with the Olam Hazeh, again, like we've discussed in Parashat Vayeshev over there many times. Maybe all these 3 situations are represented in this one Vayishchat over here. What Moshe Rabbeinu is doing over here, he's giving over to the Kohanim, he's giving over to us, to Am Yisrael, this ability, this understanding how to deal in this world, how to work in this world, how to be in this world, yet stay connected to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, yet be able to work, to walk, to act in this world through this balancing of listening, of remembering Hashem's name. This is this shift from everything being only around Moshe Rabbeinu, moving towards the Kohanim, moving towards Am Yisrael. This is why this moment is so dramatic in time. This is why this moment is so unique and gets such a special tune, because this is what it's all about. Because in the end of the day, this is what our life is about. We're here to act. We're here to continue building. We're here to continue walking, but remembering that we do all of this with the balance of Hashem's name on top of us, with listening to Hashem's words, in order so we can continue walking in His ways, building in His ways, and acting in His ways in order to bring good into this world.
Well, this is very interesting, because it basically means that the Torah doesn't want us to think that it's so simple, that in all these cases they just did what needed to be done. It wants us to stop at that word, to realize that our job in this world is not that everything just comes easily. It's a battle. It's a battle between different sides, things pulling us different ways, and we have have to, find our way through that battle. As the Tanya speaks a lot about this battle being, this is what Avodat Hashem is. If you're not having a battle, if everything's easy, then you're obviously not moving anywhere. You're not progressing anywhere. If you are moving forward, there's going to be a battle. There's something you have to deal with. And that's why this Shalshelet pulls us back and forth until we reach what we need to achieve. And maybe there's nothing more fit than Shabbat Agadol for this. Because as Chazal teach us, the Pasuk says, Mishchu ukchu lachem seh, which is very strange. Pull and bring. What do you take the seh? What do you pull and bring? But it says it wasn't just a simple task to actually take this korban as they did on Shabbat Agadol. And this is one of the reasons why it's called Hagadol, the Great, because they dared to stand with all the Egyptians watching and take this sheep, which was like the idol for the Egyptians, and use it and put it aside and tie it to their bed, which they're going to use for Korban Pesach. Chazal tell us, what's Mishchu Ku? Let go. Mishchu yedechem ma'avodah zara. Let go of the avodah zara ukhu. You're going to have to let go of one side to be able to grab the other side. It's not going to be an easy task. Am Yisrael are mixed into Mitzrayim. It's gadol not only because the Egyptians didn't do anything to the Jews when they did that. That's one aspect of the miracle. But maybe the bigger miracle is Am Yisrael's ability, who grew up in this environment where the sheep was something that's, holy, that you don't shech the sheep, and they go and do and take action against everything around them. That bravery, that decision making, that choice that is expressed here in this Shalshelet and in all these places with the Shalshelet that goes sort of back and forth. That's the Mishchu Ukhu that Am Yisrael do here on Shabbat Agadol.
Very good, exactly. And it's also going to go way deeper than that. This has been a very deep video till now. We try to cover a lot of ground in a few minutes, but really it can go so much deeper, especially connecting it to the different sfirot that we have, the Keter, Yesod, Malchut. But we're out of time, and this is probably not the right format to dive that deep into these things. However, if you enjoyed this and you have any thoughts, please feel free to leave them as comments on YouTube. We love to read those comments and to hear your thoughts about what we discussed. As usual, if you enjoyed this video, feel free to like it, subscribe to the channel if you haven't yet subscribed, and if you like, please share it around also with others. We'll also remind the viewers what we've discussed the past couple of years. Last year we discussed the beginning of the Parsha, Korban Olah, which when the Torah comes to talk about this is the Korban Olah, it doesn't even talk about the Korban Olah. It talks about the fact that the Mizbeach has to have fire on it all night long and all the time. We asked, so why is that a Korban Olah? What is the Torah trying to teach us over there? Some very important lessons for every one of us today. 2 years ago in Parshat Tzav, we discussed a question related more also to Pesach. Why on Seder night, that first Seder night when Am Yisrael in Mitzrayim, they had to eat it b'chipazon, they had to eat it fast if they had the whole night long and they only left Egypt in broad daylight? Why did they have to eat so fast and be prepared with everything on them b'chipazon if anyway they were only leaving Egypt during the day? And how does that connect to Parashat Tzav, Tzav Mishon Zrizut, the beginning of the Parsha? You want to take a look at that video too in order to prepare yourselves for Pesach even more. And Yitzi, Mirz Hashem, next week it will be Shabbos Pesach, so we will be publishing a video Erev Pesach Bezrat Hashem on Tuesday, Wednesday, so keep an eye out for it. And Shkoyach Yitzi,
Shkoyach Tuvia, Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom, and Mirz Hashem, we'll talk again in the middle of next week.